A week after I fainted in the yard, an open house sign appeared on my lawn, and no one in my family would claim it. By Saturday afternoon, the whole neighborhood was staring at my front steps, while I decided who would speak first, on a hot mic. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. My name is Andrew Whitaker, though almost everyone in town just calls me Andy. I am a retired shop teacher, a widower of 10 years, and a grandfather with hands that still smell faintly of cedar shavings no matter how many times I wash them. My house sits 3 blocks from the harbor, where the fog lifts late and the gulls steal crust straight off the picnic tables if you are foolish enough to look away. I built the kitchen table out of reclaimed maple in 1984 and planted the pear tree the day my daughter was born. The porch boards creak in exactly the same places they creaked when my son tiptoed in after midnight in high school. I know each creak like I know each wrinkle on my hands. That home, every hinge, every squeak, became the battleground for a family drama no one asked for and everyone learned from. It started, like trouble often does, with good intentions, tired people, and a man who thought expertise could replace listening. Claire, my daughter, is a nurse practitioner who can start in 4 in the dark but forgets to drink water on 12-hour shifts. My son, Nate, runs a small food truck with his fiancée, Tasha. Their tacos are the reason half the marina smells like cilantro and orange at lunchtime. My granddaughter Lucy is 10 going on 1,000 and is building a robotic arm that feeds the cat. Her little brother, Ben, is 7 and loves the sound of his own feet thundering down my hallway. We are a loving family with rough edges. We say sorry, we mean it, sometimes we need to be nudged to say it sooner. The first nudge was a note on my counter, tucked under a pear from the tree outside. Dad, call the cardiology office to confirm for Thursday. And please do not climb ladders until I get there. Love you, C. I had fainted in the yard 2 weeks earlier. My heart, which has survived 3 decades of wrestling lawn mowers and teenagers, had decided to remind me that I am 70. The doctor was not worried, but there would be tests. I promised Claire I would be careful. Then I promptly found the tallest ladder I own and talked myself out of using it by baking cinnamon rolls instead. A wooden spoon is a good compromise when you are not allowed on roofs anymore. The smell drew Lucy and Ben from across the street like moths. When robots take over, will they bake these? Ben asked, face sugared, eyes wide. Robots can do many things, I told him, but Grandma's recipe requires love, which is notoriously hard to calibrate. Not if the sensor is a heart, Lucy said, clicking her tongue the way she does when an idea lands. We should design that. We ate the first tray at the workbench because the kitchen counter was covered with Lucy's servos and my glue clamps. Our messes fit together nicely. By the time Claire arrived, my kitchen looked like an exhibit called Sugar and Bolts. She kissed my cheek, took my pulse as if I might suddenly vanish, and started tidying. You need handrails on the front steps, she said, already reaching for a notepad. And grab bars in the bathroom. I have a rail on the back steps, I pointed out. I said front, she replied, soft but firm. You insist on bringing the mail in that way, and the front steps are where you slipped last winter. I talked to a contractor. He can do it next week. Which contractor? I asked. Miles, she said. I did not know who Miles was. I would soon. There are small signs when a family is stretched too thin, coffee mugs abandoned in doorways, calendars so crowded they look like crossword puzzles, conversations that begin with practical advice instead of hello. Claire's advice always came wrapped in love, but lately love sounded like a checklist. It was easier for her to fix a door than to fix the way time keeps carrying us forward. Nate dropped by that afternoon too, hair still smelling like the flat-top griddle. Tasha says you should sell the workbench projects in the shop, he said, looking around as if my shelves might spit out inventory. We'll put a shelf by the window of the truck. Grandpa goods. Those whirligigs. The cutting boards. You could make a real dent in the rainy day fund. I do not build for denting, I said. I build because things want to be made. Things also want to be priced, he said with a grin, then softened. We love you. We want you to be safe. We want you to have help. Install the handrails. Eat the tacos. That is my plan, I told him. Tasha came in carrying a paper bag and a hug that smelled like oranges. For your freezer, she said. On days you do not feel like cooking. Also, there is a cho in here that you will pretend is for Ben. We were fine. We were good. There was no villain in this house. Love can be messy and still be love. So when the drama arrived, it wore the face of a smiling expert who had been told he was helpful his whole life. Miles was Claire's boyfriend. He had fashionably short hair, the kind of shoes that look like they have a mortgage, and the earned confidence of someone who is very good at his job in real estate. He listened pointedly and interrupted gently, which is to say he interrupted. He meant well. He also thought well-meant ideas turn into good actions by sheer insistence. Claire brought him over on a Wednesday. He shook my hand like a politician. I hear I am installing rails, he said. And doing a safety audit. Both my granddads still live at home. It is all about good habits. One trip hazard at a time. Good, I said. Start with the rug by the sink. Lucy slides like she is at a water park. Lucy, somewhere within earshot, yelled, it is called frictionless innovation. He laughed and walked the house with a small notebook, cataloging. He was efficient, he knew what he was looking for, and he missed the things that mattered to me because he did not know the stories that lived in them. It is not his fault that he did not see Grandma's handwriting on the recipe card inside the cookie jar, or the nail on the doorframe where I measured kids' heights for 40 years. A house is a museum if you have the right tour guide. Miles had the checklist, not the tour. When the evaluation reached my bedroom, he frowned at the old cedar chest at the foot of the bed. Tripping hazard, he said. It holds quilts my mother made, I told him. Could be moved to the attic, he suggested. Or sold. You could get a nice fireproof safe. I looked at his notebook and saw a line drawn through my chest, across the quilts, across the cedar, across the hands that stitched. I said nothing. 2 days later, I came home from my cardiology appointment, clean bill, more walking, less salt, a list of vegetables I pretended to find fascinating, to find my porch steps measured and marked, a stack of lumber neatly covered with a tarp, and a white sign staked into my front lawn. Open house, Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. I stood on the grass, a grocery bag in my hand, and read the sign 3 times before my brain accepted it as reality. It was not a cruel prank. It was not a TV show. It was an error printed on corrugated plastic in expensive font. Miles rounded the corner with a measuring tape. He saw where my eyes landed and raised both palms, a smile too quick to be trustworthy. Not what it looks like, he said. The open house is the neighborhood association's event. We borrowed the sign. We are doing a home safety walkthrough for seniors. Claire thought it would be good to invite people. Is that what Claire thought? I asked. He nodded too enthusiastically. It will be fun. Lemonade. I will give a talk. People can see the grab bars we installed. You will be a success story. Behind him, Mrs. Beaumont from next door waved from her porch with the gentle caution of someone who has just seen a small fire start. She mouthed, later. When he left, she came over carrying a pie and a frown. I did not know about it until he hung the sign, she said. He told me it was a good pilot. I told him we are not a runway. Claire looks exhausted, dear. You should talk to her. How is this not what it looks like? I asked, looking at the sign. The word open had migrated from house to heart, and I felt unlatched. Mrs. Beaumont, who has known me since we were young and foolish, said, Andrew, be kind. And do not be passive. Those can coexist. I set the grocery bag down and laughed. Do both at once. That is harder than building a boat. You built a boat last spring, she reminded me. Then harder than installing a stubborn handrail, I said. She patted my arm. You are good at stubborn. I called Claire. Her voice came thin and tired through the line. Dad, can I call you back later? My last patient of the day is in tears and does not like needles. You can, I said. But I want to say something. I saw the sign. There was a long pause. Shoot, she said. Miles said he would explain. He tried, I replied. It ended up being a brochure. I told him yes to the safety tour, she said. The open house sign, he grabbed the wrong one, Dad. He was supposed to get the association sign from the community closet. He is sorry. Also nervous. He wants you to like him. I want to like him too, I said truthfully. And I want to be part of the conversation about my house. I know, she said, and I heard the break in her voice. I am trying to keep you safe and keep working and keep the kids moving and keep my head together. Sometimes it comes out as a sign in the yard. There it was. Not malice, just exhaustion. Not betrayal, but a bad handoff between intention and execution. I took a breath. Then let us do it right, I said. Let us make your safety tour a proper story. Not a checklist. A tour of our home. The real one. You are not mad, she asked. I am human, I said. Which is, some anger, a lot of love, and a plan. What kind of plan? She asked, with a wariness that made me smile. The kind that uses lemonade and a label maker, I replied. I called Lucy. We are going to host the neighborhood, I told her. You are in charge of robotics. I am in charge of cinnamon rolls and historical commentary. Your mother is in charge of medicine and eye rolling. Your uncle will feed people. Mrs. Beaumont will run the door. Ben is on balloon duty. And we are going to give our house a tour like it deserves. Can I make a poster? She asked. You will make 3, I said. We had 2 days. Thursday night, Tasha and Nate pulled the food truck into the driveway and measured where to set up a griddle. Friday morning, I dug out the old slide projector. In a box labeled Ellen, Photos, I found a picture of me and my late wife standing in front of the unfinished porch, both of us young and sunburned, me wearing a tool-time shirt she hated and loved. Friday afternoon, Lucy and I stuck small cards all over the house. This is where Grandpa told Mom she could paint the wall any color and then learned there are 7 kinds of blue with names like cloud. This window is where Ben watched the first snow and said, the sky is letting go. Tool marks here from when Aunt Claire built a birdhouse and said her birds were union and needed a better roof. We put a card by the cedar chest. Cedar keeps the quilts dry and our stories close. Please do not move. You may sit and think about the hands that stitched. I called the Marina band director, a man who still owes me for fixing his bass drum stand in 2003, and asked if his students wanted to practice outdoors for an audience. He laughed. For you, Andy. We will bring the whole low brass, but I will pretend the idea was mine. In the background of all that, I called my lawyer and told her what the cardiology appointment had told me. I had time, hopefully plenty of it. But I wanted the house set up to remain the center of our family. I asked her to draft a living trust that would, when the time came, pass the home to Claire and Nate together with the condition that it not be sold until Ben is 21 unless they both agree. There would be a small fund in the trust for maintenance, seeded from a CD Ellen and I had never touched. It was practical and sentimental in equal measure. This is the part of the plan that is not for the safety tour, I told Lucy when she asked what the fancy envelope was. This is the part called growing up responsibly. What is the exciting part called? She asked, whispering as if it were a code word. The exciting part, I said, is called mischief. Saturday dawned with fog rolling in off the harbor and the smell of meat and coffee. Tasha kept the grill singing while Nate took orders from neighbors who drifted up the driveway with folding chairs and curious smiles. Mrs. Beaumont wore a visitor badge she had made with my old label maker and shouted, "Next!" like it was a theater cue. Miles arrived in a polo shirt with a stack of brochures about grab bars. He looked both surprised and relieved to see an operation already in progress. I brought safety literature, he said. Good, I replied, clapping his shoulder. You are on the handrail demonstration after the cinnamon rolls. People are a lot more responsive when not hypoglycemic. He looked at the band lurching into a Sousa march on my front lawn, then back at me. Is this the neighborhood association? It is the neighborhood, I said. And it is an association. Claire arrived with a first aid kit and an expression that said both I love you and please do not let this get away from us. The kids wore operator badges Lucy had made with marker and resolve. At 1 o'clock, Mrs. Beaumont rang her bell. Welcome to the Whitaker Home Safety Tour and Story Hour, she announced. Guided by the man who knows which stairs squeak, Andrew himself. People clapped. I did not expect to feel shy, but I did, the way a man feels shy about a room he built with his own hands now full of eyes. I cleared my throat. First, I said, this is not a sales brochure. If you want me to sell this house, you will have to wait until the second Tuesday after never. Second, I am going to tell you where every accident has happened in this house and how we fixed it or lived with it. Third, we will eat after the tour to avoid comedy. I pointed to the front step, where, 15 winters ago, I missed a patch of invisible ice and invented a dance I do not recommend. I showed them the rug by the sink and the grip tape we put under it. I let Miles hold the drill and install the first grab bar, because he is good at that, and I told him where we wanted it, because I have fallen in that bathroom and know where the wall is when you reach. He nodded and let me place his hands where it made sense. The tour moved through the house like a slow river. People touched the card by the cedar chest gently, then sat and told me about their own grandmother's quilts. Kids lined up to prove they could still fit under the dining table if they tucked their heads. The band played Happy Birthday at the wrong tempo and right volume. When we reached the kitchen, Lucy stood on a chair with a microphone I did not know she owned. Attention, she said. This island is where Grandpa taught me fractions using pi. It is also where the cat tried to eat raw dough once and we learned the word yeast means alive. Please move right if you want a cinnamon roll. Please move left if you want to see my robot arm feed a grape to the cat. Chaos ensued, as planned. Miles lingered behind with his brochures. Andrew, he said quietly, he did not know whether to say sorry or impressed first. Start with sorry, I told him. Then land on impressed. I am sorry, he said, honestly. The sign was stupid. The assumption was worse. I thought Claire needed me to handle it. I forgot there was you. You forgot your audience, I said, not unkindly. It happens. He looked at the photos pinned to the corkboard: wedding, birthdays, the summer we painted the fence red because the stain looked wrong in the sun and we decided wrong could be joyful if you commit. I thought houses were square footage and safety checklists, he said. I keep learning they are layered. Stay long enough, I told him, and you will learn they are stubborn too. The day went like most good days do, with hiccups that turned into stories. The balloon tank sputtered out, so Ben handed people empty strings and promised the balloons were invisible. A gust of wind took the recipe card off the counter and stuck it to the cat. The band ran out of Sousa and played the Jeopardy theme for 5 solid minutes while people laughed so hard they had to sit down. We were almost done when the real drama walked up my driveway disguised as helpfulness again. A couple I had never seen before, both wearing sunglasses and ambition, stepped onto the porch. The man examined the trim like he knew something about it. The woman took a slow panoramic video and murmured, "Bones are good." "Open house?" she asked. We saw the sign. Nate and Tasha looked at me. Mrs. Beaumont positioned herself between the strangers and my hallway like a sentry with a whistle. Miles turned a shade paler because the sign was, in fact, in the lawn, and intentions do not erase plastic letters. Claire and I could have chosen a dozen responses. Anger. Righteousness. A speech about respect, which I would have delivered poorly because I was suddenly aware of the music's absurd tempo and the cinnamon icing in my beard. Instead, I stepped forward, wiped my chin with my sleeve, and stuck out my hand. "Welcome to the safety tour and family history," I said. "If you would like to see the handrails, my future son-in-law will show you the sturdiest. If you would like to see the kitchen, my culinary staff will point you toward tacos. If you would like to make an offer on my house, you may do so at the silent auction table for imaginary houses. Minimum bid is 3 hugs and a promise." The woman looked confused, then intrigued, then sheepish. She laughed. "We do not need a house," she said. "We have one. We just like open houses." "Then you will love open backyards and open hearts," I said. "Eat. Enjoy." They stayed for a plate and left with a story about a cat who wears recipe cards. By late afternoon, the fog had lifted to reveal a sky that looks like rinsed glass and a lawn with crushed grass circles where the band had stood too long in one place. The grab bars were in. The handrails were aligned. There were 3 cards left in the deck for things we wanted to say and had not said yet. Claire pulled me aside by the pear tree. The fruit was more yellow than green now. "I am sorry," she said, and the words were so simple they made my throat go tight. "I am sorry for making decisions I should have made with you, not for you. I was scared." "Fear makes signs appear in lawns," I replied. "I do not like the sign, but I like the fear if it is just fear of losing me." She nodded. "I keep thinking about the day Mom died. That is when I started setting up checklists. It makes me feel like I have control." "You have control over cinnamon rolls," I said, then softened and took her hand. Keep your lists. Put me on them. But not as a task. As a partner. She smiled, a tired and bright thing, and looked like the little girl who used to wave from the window when I came home from late faculty meetings. Miles approached, hands in pockets, eyes on the pear tree. I can fix the sign, he said. With my own 2 hands. I will stand out in the yard with a Sharpie. Sharpies are powerful, I told him. But not sufficient. He took a breath. Then use me. Tell me what to do. Grill, I said. All afternoon. Wear the apron Lucy made. It says, I serve the house I tried to sell. Then, at the end, hold the microphone and tell everyone what you learned. Do not say, mistakes were made. Say, I made mistakes. And then announce a donation. To what? He asked, swallowing. Lucy's Robotics Club, I said without consulting anyone because it felt exactly right. Your first commission with this family will be negative. He laughed, it turned into a wince, then it became a nod. Seems fair, he said. At dusk, while the band packed up and the last of the tacos disappeared, Lucy tapped the microphone and cleared her throat. She is small but sounds like someone who expects to be heard. Thank you for coming to our safety tour, she said. There is a rumor that my grandpa's house is for sale. That rumor is incorrect. This house is for hugs and science experiments and sometimes crying and then not crying anymore. Now Miles has something to say. Miles took the microphone and looked at me like a man about to step into a river without testing the depth. He did not look to Claire for rescue. He looked at the crowd and told the truth. I tried to help and did not listen first, he said. I used a sign when I should have used an invitation. I treated a home like a project. Today I learned a better way. Also I installed 3 grab bars and I am proud of them, but I am more proud of the fact that I will be back next week with paint and I will paint the trim in whatever blue Mr. Whitaker thinks looks wrong in the sun. Laughter rolled across the yard like a wave breaking gently. And, he continued, I am donating my next commission to the Harbor Bots, because Lucy's robot made the cat eat a grape and I think that is historic. I did not plan what happened next, I wish I could say I did. The truth is, humor and grace are contagious, and our neighbors are generous. One person cheered. Then another. Then someone shouted a number, 200. And then it was not a donation but an impromptu auction where people bid on nothing more than the privilege of seeing kids build something wonderful. Miles looked at me, I shrugged and said, let it ride. By the time it settled, the Harbor Bots had nearly $3,000, and Lucy was crying because she is 10 and the world is too big to hold sometimes, especially when it is kind. When the yard had emptied and the house had the soft quiet of a place that has been full and is ready to rest, Claire and Nate sat with me at the dining table. The cinnamon rolls were hardening to the texture of coasters. The pear tree outside flickered with the last light. I have something, I told them, setting the legal envelope on the table. Not a trick. Not a punishment. A plan. I made a trust. The house will be yours when it needs to be yours. It cannot be sold until Ben is 21 unless you both agree. There is a little fund for fixing the roof when it needs it. If you turn it into a museum to my stubbornness, I will haunt you. Dad, Claire said, eyes wet, we could have done this together. We are doing it together, I replied, and slid the pen across the table. I cannot give you everything, but I can give you the map. Fill in the landmarks. Nate signed his name on the line where it said he agreed to be a co-trustee later, and then he leaned back with his old teenager grin. Also, he said, I am starting Grandpa Goods. Not to make a dent. To make a point. People will pay for the story that goes with the cutting board. We will write the story on the tag. What will it say? I asked. It will say, this board was sanded by a man who believes that mistakes can be sanded too, Nate replied. Tasha swatted his arm and told him to stop making me cry into hard icing. We cleaned up late into the night, the kind of late that only matters when you do not have to be anywhere early in the morning. Lucy fell asleep on the couch with the cat, both of them worn out from attention. Ben counted the invisible balloons again because he needed them to add up to a certain number to sleep. We nodded and assured him they did. That should have been the end of it, but families do not resolve in a single day. They grow new questions even as they answer old ones. The next week, on a Tuesday that tasted like rain, Miles called. I signed a listing, he said, voice rough. Mrs. Keller on Maple. Single story, perfect for a retired shop teacher if he ever wanted less stare in his life. I thought maybe I would. I am not moving, I said gently. I know, he replied. I was not going to suggest it. I was going to ask if I could hire you. To do what? To build a bench for her entryway, he said. With a lid for shoes. It would mean something, I think, if the bench came from the man whose stories I ignored. So I built a bench, and it became the first piece in a small, strange business that should not have worked and somehow did. I built things for people at the moments where life shifts a little, and Miles helped me find those people, and I taught him that the first thing you bring into a home is not a measuring tape but a question. He taught me that not all permits are roadblocks, some are blessings. Claire and he learned to listen to each other the way you learn a duet, halting at first, then a harmony that makes you forget how quiet the song used to be. He stopped grabbing signs without asking. She stopped writing lists that did not have my name at the top. They married in the backyard the following summer under the pear tree, with a handrail that had become part of our rhythm, not a concession. We used the bench I built as their gift table, and the cards tucked into it felt like new quilts being stitched onto old cedar. Speech, the band director said, because he cannot attend anything without requiring a speech. I took the microphone and realized I was about to become the man who narrates from behind his own eyes, which is dangerous if you are prone to sentimentality. Family is a workshop, I said. We break things. We fix them. We make new parts. We leave the old pencil marks because they help us keep our lines straight. When I handed the microphone to Miles, he looked at me with a gratitude that does not require language and said, I used to think love was giving people what you are good at. It turns out love is learning what they need and letting them teach you how to give it. There are small scenes I will keep forever. Claire laughing at a grab bar because it matched the shampoo shelf and she could not believe we had accidentally coordinated, Nate loading a shelf of Grandpa goods into the truck while Ben argued that invisible balloons do not count toward capacity, Lucy showing the younger kids how to solder while explaining that heat is just atoms getting excited. And then there was my 70th birthday. We did not plan anything grand. We planned a normal day with cake. But normal in our family has grown into something that looks like a small festival, and I do not intend to apologize for that. The backyard was strung with lights. The band, who had long ago decided that my lawn is their favorite venue, played songs that made the neighbors dance and the dogs bark. Tasha cooked. Nate sold 3 cutting boards with stories. Claire baked a cake that looked like a toolbox and tasted like lemon. Miles wore the apology apron of his own volition, a man who has learned to keep a joke that keeps us tender. Halfway through, Lucy walked to the microphone without warning. Her robot rolled beside her carrying a card. Grandpa, she said, This robot learned to feed the cat grapes because you taught it patience. Also, you talked to it like a person. People laughed. Also, she continued, we have something to say. Miles, do the thing. Miles took the microphone, cleared his throat, and switched on the small speaker I had used during the safety tour. The yard quieted. He looked nervous and happy, which is how honest men look. This community knows I once put a sign in a place where my ears should have been, he said. I would like to demonstrate that my ears work. I am donating my entire next commission to the harbor bots. And because the last time I used a microphone without permission it caused problems, I have cleared this with the person in charge. He pointed at Lucy. She grinned. The band director yelled, speech, again because he is a one-trick pony, and I took the microphone because I am weak to tradition. Thank you, I said. We accept. We will purchase wires and safety goggles and something silly that makes the kids love science more than the adults think is practical. Also, Lucy added, Grandpa gets a new drill. His makes a noise like a bee that is retiring. The crowd laughed. We raised a toast of lemonade because the Marines had borrowed all the beer tents that weekend for a fundraiser. The cake collapsed slightly to one side, and we gave that piece to Ben, who calls all icing, frosting glue, and treats structural integrity as a suggestion. The best part of the night was not the music or the cake or the way the pear leaves made shadows on Miles' face when he laughed. It came later, when the lights dimmed and people began to leave, and I stood by the handrail we had installed a year earlier, running my thumb over the smooth bolt. Claire came to stand beside me and leaned her head on my shoulder. I could have hurt you, she said. With my list. You did not, I said. You held me. Even when I grabbed the wrong sign. She asked, teasing herself gently. Especially then, I said. She took a deep breath and let it out in a way that sounded like letting go. Do you ever think about moving? She asked after a moment, not with pressure but with curiosity. I think about trading stair count for a flatter yard, I said. I think about the sea winding its way through the hollows of this house even when there is no fog. I think about the pear tree. So, not yet, she translated, rightly. Not yet, I said. She kissed my cheek and went to pack the last of the plates with Tasha, who was loading the dishwasher like she was playing Tetris toward a world record. Nate and Ben argued about whether invisible balloons required tying. Mrs. Beaumont fell asleep in my porch chair and snored like a distant motorboat. And I stood there, a man who had almost been turned into a cautionary tale and instead became a cautionary joke. I will take the joke. It keeps us kind. It keeps us humble. It keeps the microphones where they belong, in the hands of 10-year-olds who understand exactly what matters. A few days later, Miles showed up with paint, 2 sandwiches, and the look of a man who wants to say a thing that will change a small part of the world. I have been thinking about the sign, he said. I would like to make a new one. What will it say? I asked, handing him a brush. It will say, he replied, carefully, open house, Saturdays, Whitaker Workshop. Bring what is broken. We will fix it if we can. We will listen if we cannot. We put it up. People came. They brought chairs with wobbly legs, toys with one remaining wheel, clocks that had lost time not because gears failed but because grief had rearranged their insides. I taught the young ones to sand with the grain. I taught the older ones to name the part that hurts. We built what we could and laughed when we could not. We cried sometimes too. Then the band played a march that was not quite Sousa and exactly right for our street. Justice, in the end, did not look like a courtroom. It looked like an apron and a microphone and a donation that taught a man to measure twice and speak once. It looked like a handrail placed where an old man reaches when he slips. It looked like a pear tree, heavy with fruit, leaning just enough to throw shade where we need it most. If you walk by my house now, you will see the rails shining like sentences that have finally learned where to pause. You will hear a robot or in the back room like a cat purring. And if you come on a Saturday, you will find our door open and our table covered in screws and sugar. My granddaughter will look up and ask what you brought that needs fixing. I will look at you and ask what stories you want to keep safe. We will pour lemonade. We will listen. The band will warm up in the yard. And as the harbor fog retreats and the gulls argue like old men, I will thank whatever mercy put a sign in my yard and a stubbornness in my heart that, together, turned a mistake into a tradition. At my 70th birthday, the man who tried to sell my house had to donate his entire commission to my granddaughter's robotics club, on a hot mic. And every time he grills in that silly apron, he leans over and whispers, "Thank you for not selling me when you had the chance." I tell him the same thing I tell everyone who walks into our workshop and wonders if we can help. We fix what we can. We forgive what we should. We keep the rest for stories.
Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support the creation of more stories like this. Have a great day or evening.